Hello, everyone. Another book club with Women on the Move. And today is Thursday, April the 9th. The year is 2026. And we'll first start with introductions. I'm Cindy.
I'm Angie.
I'm Harriet.
I'm Linda.
I'm Odella.
I'm Sadie.
We have a fabulous book to discuss this evening. So I will turn it over to our host, Odella. She'll introduce the title, the author, and she's going to lead our conversation this evening. So, Odella, the floor is yours.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
And Oki, we're reading Janette Oki's book. It's actually her first novel, and the title is Love Comes Softly. The book was first introduced in 1979, and it was written during the 1960s. I'm sorry, 1860s, and it's considered an inspirational novel. The primary characters are, excuse me, Clark Davis, who lost his wife and had a one-year-old daughter. Her name was Missy. And Marty Claridge, she was a young bride. She lost her husband, Clem, in an accident, only to discover that she was a few weeks pregnant. And the story begins because she realizes that she's all alone. She has no place to go, no money. She can't get back home or anything. And she's in the wilderness. And she is basically on her own and afraid. And the character, Clark Davis, who had lost his wife, enters the picture and says, "Let's get married." So it's an inspirational story. So I have a question. Let's look at the title of this book, Love Comes Softly. In what way does the title truly fit this story?
I think hands down it fits the story. The way I always look to see how the title comes into the book, and the title came into the book with the friend Ma. Ma. Ma
Yes.
had remarried Ben, and she befriends Marty, and she's talking to her about Ben being her second husband, and it was a mine, his, and ours combination of children.
Mm-hmm.
And because Ben and Ma are just such a beautiful couple, so loving, and Marty has no idea that this is a second marriage. And Ma tells her it was a marriage of convenience. It was a
Yes.
marriage so that we could help each other. He needed
Mm-hmm.
me and I needed him. And she said it wasn't love in the beginning, but love comes softly.
Yes. Yes.
And that depicts what happened with Marty and Clark.
Yes. Yes. And I think it also helps us to understand that the power of love can really change a person, because think about the hardships and the loss that both Marty and Clark had experienced, but it impacts their life in a positive way.
Mm-hmm.
Would you agree?
Definitely.
After
They
time,
they don't
yes.
always think so.
Right.
No,
Because
they
for a
certainly
while
didn't
they
in the
were,
beginning.
Yeah.
Yes,
yeah.
Yeah.
yes. So, what do you think of Marty's character? Is she really just so naive and lost in herself?
Well, she was pretty grief stricken.
Yeah.
It's kind of shocking. She didn't just marry him because she needed to. I mean, they got married the day they buried her husband
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
because the preacher was in town. I mean, I kind of was taken back by that, but I also thought, well, you can't live in a covered wagon.
That's
Right.
true.
But Clark, Clark was very respectful. He was like the perfect character. There are not many flaws there. And he really kind of let love come softly.
Yes.
And
And
I
I,
think by her being so young, like I know she was 19, which is probably was
19.
old for that time.
Mhm.
And she did not know a lot of things. Like she didn't know how to cook. That was something she was going to learn with her first husband. They were
Yeah.
basically growing up together, and he was her love. They got married for love. Okay,
Yes.
and that's why they went on this adventure to start a new life together. So he probably understood, and he knew her limitations and accepted them, thinking that she would grow. And I think she did mature with the
Mhm.
with relationship with Clark, but a lot of it, she was grieving. She was devastated. This was, the man that she loved, the father of her child, and she's in a place with absolutely no family and no money, no uh, means to support herself. So she had all of that on her, and then the expectation of raising a little girl and taking care of a man, cooking and my favorite part is when she killed that chicken.
Yeah.
So she was learning as she goes, and you cannot expect her to fall immediately in love. And I liked how um, he, even though she was scrubbing the house and cleaning it and keeping it, he was resentful of that because she was changing his what was his first wife's name? Ellie? No. Uh, what was her name when they died?
Oh, was it Ellen or was it something like that?
Yeah, what she was Ellen. That was it.
Yeah.
Sh Marty was changing Ellen. She was erasing Ellen, and he resented that. He,
Oh, and then she scrubbed it wrong. And
Correct. She
she
didn't
scrubbed the
know.
wall. She didn't know.
yeah.
yeah,
Right.
she soaked all the grout and fell, it fell
Exactly.
Yeah.
on
But
the,
he was
but
I
so
think,
patient with her
he
and
was
so
very
He
yeah, he
was.
was.
considerate and kind.
Yes, he
he
was.
was.
I think part of the title too um, centers around the relationship that Marty had with the little girl.
With Missy.
Okay.
Yeah, with Missy. The love comes softly because, you know, um, they had to build a relationship and had to bond together and fall in love with each other as mother and daughter. So
Mhm.
I think that's part that could be part of the title too.
And just like Clark was resentful of Marty, changing things in the house
Hmm.
because it diminished Ellen's presence. So was Marty. Remember, she made the beautiful little dresses, and she said, "I'm not gonna wear this for him. I If it
Yes.
was for Clem, I would be happy to wear it, but for him,
Right.
Hmm.
Yeah, I thought she was even more so than he was in the sense.
Right.
yeah,
For
And it
sure.
was very fortunate, and I guess it showed her character that she accepted Missy so
yes,
quickly and cared for
hmm
her so quickly, because I would think that in your grief, that would be a difficult thing to do.
Yes, I agree.
But I think part of it was because Missy was so young. And
mm
here's a child who's totally dependent. You
Mhm.
can't help but take care of this child. And that helped. I think that helped Marty through her grief because
hmm
she had to focus on that baby. And,
hmm
she had never been a mom before. Uh,
Mhm.
and so the baby Missy helped her too. And I thought it was just so touching. The first time Missy called her mama, it was like, oh, that was a heartfelt moment.
Yeah.
Yes. So, what can we learn about resilience from the characters,
I
about their
think
own
you can,
sense of personal strength?
I think they showed that you can get through anything, with kindness, because I thought he was very kind to her,
hmm
um, and they came back, they forged their own family. So,
Well,
yeah, no
it was
matter
like
how hard they got through it.
life is hard, and everyone gets different levels of challenges in their life. But with that strength to to continue and then to at least be accepting and kind of everything. I think, of course, his faith was a big part of that. And
Right.
she kind of grew with that and kind of figured out how that fits in her life too. But, she always, like you said earlier, Ma, she thought, oh, they have the perfect family, but she too had gone through fires that could have stopped somebody else, but
Hmm.
decided that she was going to make it, she was going to
Exactly.
accept life as it came.
That's true. So you guys mentioned that the husband, he was a Christian man.
Right.
Yes.
And often throughout the novel, it talked about him, his willingness to always pray, before supper, and he'd read the Bible. And remember the first time she was shocked.
She
She
didn't know
said she didn't grow up with that.
Right.
Correct.
So she didn't understand about having a relationship with God and praying and such. But how did that help to connect them, his Christian faith?
I
Or
think
did
it
you think it
showed.
not?
Oh, I think it did connect them because one thing about her, we have to say though, she was open. Some people can be
Hmm.
closed-minded and turn it off, but she didn't know about it and it was foreign to her, but she still respected him enough to listen. And then as time continued, she saw how things he was saying filtered into their relationship. And then when they went to church, then she really felt it. And then eventually, she becomes saved and she, it goes full circle, but she was open. So that's one thing I do have to say for her. She listened and she may not have understood, but the more he talked and the more he prayed, because he did it every single day. They had like a Bible
Hmm.
study.
Right.
Mhm.
Hmm.
Yes.
I was kind of surprised. I guess my image of the 1800s
Yeah.
were that everyone was
Everybody.
a little bit,
Hmm.
had a little bit of knowledge, but she was like, yeah, I didn't grow up with any of this,
Hmm.
Mhm.
Right.
and I was a little surprised by that.
I was
I
too.
yeah, I think his faith, like it was said earlier, drew her because I think she said she thought seeing him being so faithful after all the things he'd gone through, the tragedies he went through as well, and to
Hmm.
still see him worship and spend time with God and pray, and knowing that he found strength in that, I think that drew her to have a spiritual life as well.
Exactly. And I think piggybacking on what you just said, Harriet, he had no expectations of Marty other than taking care of Missy.
Mhm.
Right.
So he didn't make her feel pressured at all in terms of intimacy or anything of that nature. So he allowed her to go through her grief, and that showed phenomenal character in terms of who he was.
Kind of
Hmm.
funny, he suffered through her cooking. He'd just say, oh,
Right.
coffee,
Yes.
All the pancakes.
all the pancakes.
And
And
I,
the only
and
only thing he would say is, "You make good coffee."
Good coffee.
Right.
yeah,
Oh.
I like how I'm going back to referencing what Cindy just said. How my Graham, when she came over to talk, she wanted to know about Ellen, the first wife, and she said, "I need to know about her. What something to the effect I'm taking over her house and her child." And then Mom noticed she didn't say her man.
Mhm. Mhm.
Right.
But that was also so sweet that she wanted to make sure that Missy knew who her mother was,
Mm-hmm.
Right.
you know, because she also knew that she wanted her child to know who his
Is
father
the
was.
Right.
mm-hmm.
Exactly. That was wise on her part. She's 19 years old.
Mm-hmm.
So let me ask you this question: in what ways does the setting influence the emotional tone of the story?
I'd like to share that the setting, it's very rural. I mean, they're
Mhm.
out in the middle of nowhere. And from the very first chapter, the very first page, there's a semblance of community with these
Yes.
people.
Yes.
because, she's in the wagon. Their wagon is broken down. And, her husband, Marty's husband, was a dreamer. They're coming to California for adventure and
Yeah.
for, you know, good times and hopefully to make their mark on the world and have good finances. Their wagon breaks down. Then she's waiting. He goes off. And then these men come and tell her, that her husband has perished.
Mm-hmm.
And
Right.
then they go on to bury him. The community comes out to support her with
Right.
this. And then, after that, Marty makes this proposal to you. It's like, hey, I need you, you need me. And then I love in his proposal, he says, if this doesn't work out for you next year, when the, travels come back around, I will pay for you to go back home. But the deal is you have to take Missy because she needs a mother. I was like,
Yeah.
that is
Yes.
deep.
Yes.
That showed great love
I
for
don't know.
his
Would he have
daughter to
let her
say,
go
I'll give
home?
you to a stranger. It may not work out with me. But I thought because of them being like out in the middle of nowhere, it was a strong sense of
Mm-hmm.
community with all of them, how they helped each other. If something tragic happened, they helped build, refurbish houses, add on. It
Right.
was just really,
Mm-hmm.
they bonded through those things and they really were there for each other. And it
Yeah.
made me think, golly, wouldn't it be nice if we got back to that? Sometimes people can live in a neighborhood for years and then don't even know many of their neighbors.
That's
Mm-hmm.
true.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So you're right, Cindy. Community is an important part of this story, and it's played out numerous times throughout. It also goes back to this notion of love. Love is not just romantic love, but it extends beyond those kinds of relationships to encompass a friendship and community bonds. And we see
Mm-hmm.
that early on.
Yeah.
Think about go ahead.
I was gonna say, I even kind of wondered if Clem hadn't died, how they would have made it, because
Mm-hmm.
they were in a wagon, and it wasn't long before the weather turned bad. I think it was like a month or two later.
Mm,
And he thought, well, people are just going to come out and help us build this all together, but he didn't have resources
right.
Nothing.
like he could help anybody else. And I kind of have thought, God, I wonder how long the love in their
Yeah.
eyes would have stayed there if they're freezing to death.
Right. They
Because
were close to where they were going, though. They were that plot of land that he
yeah,
decided it wasn't far, but they couldn't even get there because their wagon broke down.
yeah.
Right.
And
And that winter was a really hard
it
winter.
was a hard one.
Yeah,
Yes.
and
They
I
couldn't stay in that wagon, you
know
know.
they had
They
no
would have
food.
frozen to death.
Yep.
Yes.
Yeah.
So going back to Ma Graham, how does her presence have such a significant impact on Marty?
I think she was her stability, her,
Mm-hmm.
rock when she needed it. She calmed her down, kind of a mother presence,
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
taught her how to cook,
Mm-hmm.
For the whole
and
community, she was a
yes, yes. So she was the mom, the rock, that she needed.
What
And
you
she
said
really,
is so true. That's exact. Ma was exactly who Marty needed.
Yes.
So Marty wouldn't feel alone. And she had a beautiful connection with her. Because think about it. You're in this house with this man. You don't know him. You're raising his
Right.
child. You don't know how to do all of these things. You're grieving the husband that you absolutely adored. And it's like, oh, but then when she was with Ma, she could let her hair down and not be tense.
Right.
Can you imagine,
mm-hmm.
you're tense every night. She may have thought, okay, he's nice, but is he going to try to come in here? He said he doesn't want anything, but just because somebody says something doesn't mean that they follow through with what they
That's
say.
true.
Right.
Yeah, yes, it's true. So Ma represented a mother figure
Hmm.
for
I
She was
Marty.
a
think
safe
I think
harbor.
she
Hmm.
yeah, I think she represented the mother figure and then also a female connection because if we all think of our lives, it has been such a support to have a girlfriend or a mom or aunt that just connectiveness of another female that can understand a lot of times what men don't understand. So I think that helped Marty through a lot. I think their camaraderie helped each other.
Okay.
Well, there's a reason why she was called Ma.
Correct. Yes.
Everyone.
And she was a ma to everyone. Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
I don't think we ever even knew her real name.
No.
They just called her Ma.
Yeah.
Right. And she had 11 kids?
Yeah.
13,
had a
2 of them
lot of
died.
Originally.
Two died,
Yeah,
yeah.
Mhm.
Two died on there. I was like,
And that's
woof.
one thing about this whole Western genre, but it was in this book too. Boy, life was tough. There was a lot of death.
Real tough.
And you just think, wow, that's a lot to live through and to continue on through. Death of children, death of spouses, friends. Oof.
So let me ask you, what was your favorite moment in the story outside of the ending? What was your favorite moment or moments?
One of mine was when Missy called Marty Mama. That was one of my favorite moments because I thought that was just so touching. And then so when Missy calls Marty Mama, and then, oh, I love the long chats that Marty and Clark had, as their relationship and their friendship was evolving. I thought that was so sweet. And I had actually put down these three things. I loved it when Clark gave Marty the sewing
Yes.
machine
Right.
that
Yes.
he had
Yeah.
ordered for his wife.
His
Can you
wife.
think this was supposed to be a surprise for his wife, but he gave it, he had ordered it, it came, it was for her birthday.
Right.
Yeah.
It made him cry when he saw it.
Yes.
Well, and
That,
she was touched by it so much too, so excited, and she was kind enough to not even put it near him so that
Right.
beginning so that he wouldn't,
Get upset.
be hurt by
right.
it. I love the Christmas preparation part.
Okay.
I know it's a turning point in their relationship too, because they were doing things together, and he was touched that she had done things special for Missy. And so that was a sweet scene, and you could see how things were turning and changing. And she, although she didn't think she was thinking things differently, you could tell she was thinking differently about the whole
Yeah.
situation.
Mhm.
I agree with you. I think the Christmas preparation scenes really gave us a sense of hope
Hmm.
and renewal. And the fact that she was able to create new traditions for the family, new experiences,
Yes,
in spite of the fact that they both had losses. Because at first she was just mostly focused on her loss. She didn't think about his loss.
right.
My favorite moment was when she was sewing her dresses and she
Mhm.
decided to sew something for Missy, and
Missy.
she wanted something that kind of matched her, and she made the little jumper and the little blouse. And to me, that was like, okay, she was accepting her as being part of her. And
Yes.
then she's knitted what would the thing she knitted for the birthday. So
Right.
she was investing in. She was Missy. Slowly, Missy was slowly growing into her heart when
Hmm.
she did that, because she could have been selfish and said, I ain't sending this little girl. He can buy her some clothing. We can sew all this material for me.
Little John
But
walked through the forest laughing.
but she intentionally wanted to include her to me, and Missy was so proud of it. She ran and showed it to the daddy before she could finish it. So that to me, that was the moment when, and maybe in the back of her mind, because her grief was still fresh, but in the back of her mind, she was beginning to accept this as her new family, her new future.
Yeah.
Right. Right.
Anyone else have any special moments?
The the chicken thing was funny.
It was funny.
It was funny. And then he had to
That
go
was
kill that
all
rooster
over.
because the rooster wasn't going to make it with half a beak.
Right.
Oh my gosh, that was ridiculous.
Right. And then she had to tie him down and
I remember as a little girl watching my great grandmother kill a chicken and thinking, because it was kind of a
Yeah.
scene like that, it was like,
Yeah. Could you imagine us having to do that?
no,
Like,
oh, I
oh
still
my
think that was
goodness.
enough. I was a
The
little
headless chicken running around the yard. Oh no.
Yes, my grandfather did that when I was out there, and
yes.
and he thought it was funny because he did it on purpose. So I would just be and the chicken was just jumping everywhere, and I was screaming.
And my mom kept saying, don't look. And I had to look out the window and
Odella, what was your favorite special moment?
Oh gosh, there were so many. I would say I can't remember exactly where in the book it happens, but it's when she realized that she was no longer angry with Clark.
Mhm.
Mm.
I can't remember what specifically happened, but just her sense of awareness that Clark was no longer just a stranger, but she was seeing him as a partner.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
She was slowly admiring his strength and kindness, particularly the way he was willing to support her through her grief over Clem.
Mhm.
Because you
Correct.
guys are right, he never pressured her. He never complained about her cooking. Even when she messed up and created more work for him, he did not complain.
Mhm.
The part I like too, though, and I can't remember the lady's name, but her husband was always late for everything,
Oh,
and she kept her head down. She was afraid to talk to anybody, and she was so kind to her
Yes.
on there. And that I really like that. She was really kind to her.
And
And
she
then
brought
when
that old gift.
yes,
Yeah.
yes. And she thanked her for the gift for the baby. And,
Yeah.
she was very kind to her. And when some of the one woman that did all the talking and she wouldn't listen to her talking, about her. And I thought she was very, very kind to her. She could see she needed someone to talk to,
Mhm.
you know.
yes. Because her husband, he was a jerk. He
He was
would
terrible.
get places late and then he'd want to eat all of the food and he never
Mm.
contributed and helped at all.
Right, right. He
And she
was
was probably
awful.
embarrassed, and he probably wasn't kind to her.
No,
Right.
he wasn't.
Mhm.
So, changing gears just a bit, let's look at Ma's stepdaughter and daughter.
Mm.
Laura.
Remember, the daughter
Oh,
got
Right,
engaged
Yeah.
and
right.
she was supposed to get married.
Yeah.
And I mean, we kind of all celebrated that, listening to the plans of what was going to happen. The soon to be husband, was building a
A
cabin,
home
a
for him,
home for her.
yeah.
Then
Hmm.
suddenly the stepdaughter says, "Well, I'm getting married."
To the
Are you
worst guy in
surprised?
town.
The
Thank
worst guy
you.
in town, yes.
The
So
town
what?
scalawag.
Yeah. So
Right.
why do you think the author offers those two contrasts? Because it's certainly different from what we sense in the beginning of the book.
I think to show the dynamics of families and reality. And
Hmm.
then, you have these girls who, the stepdaughter, she was jealous. So I'm going to go
Mhm.
ahead and get married too. You're not going to outshine me. And it seems like the stepdaughter may have been
She was
older,
pregnant. Yeah, she was pregnant by the guy.
Yeah, she
right?
was.
And she was older than the other girl. So, she feels ashamed. And it was tragic what happened.
Very tragic.
Mhm.
But it also kind of shows how sometimes that family, I mean, there's a lot more strife there. And maybe that was a warning for the blended family that was developing
Mm.
for
Oh,
Marty
okay.
and Clark, because
Mm.
Mm. I don't know, because Mom was saying, I've treated her like my daughter. What
Yes.
what went wrong? Because she didn't want her to marry him. She was trying to talk her out of it. But the stepdaughter she was like you said, jealous,
Almost
but
kind of
she
doing it out of spite too.
right,
Correct.
right.
Mhm. Mhm.
well, out of pain, I think she was
True.
embarrassed. And so, you strike out, unfortunately, and not always in smart ways.
Right.
I think she was trying to gain attention because, with all the siblings and all the other things that were going on. And when the younger sister said, I'm getting married, then she's like, well, now nobody's paying attention to me and I have to fight for all of this. And so I think too, she did it uh, to, for attention seeking.
Yeah, but there was also a big buildup always about how the young man would see her and he would look lovingly at her and she would remember how that was with Clem and that's not at all what Laura got. So
Right, right.
yeah. Yeah, it was sad. That was sad.
It was sad, yeah. Also, this novel is considered a clean romance. Did this make the love story more or less compelling to you?
The love story
Because
between
there was no,
Marty and
I kind of felt like it was making the point that real love is not just about falling head over heels with somebody,
yes,
or all that stuff. But ahead of time, it's nice to have a crush and everything. But when, I mean, it was all the hard stuff that happened through that year together that created love. And Ma and Ben had been through it, and so they had some other examples of it. But real love, and it was a marriage of convenience, but you hear people talk about arranged marriages, and a lot of times they say those actually work well because
well,
people know what they're
correct,
getting, you know,
Mm-hmm.
and
exactly,
they
and
know
they
what's going
grow to
on.
love each other.
Right,
yes.
and there's
Mhm.
not the same disappointment maybe you might get.
Right, right,
Clint would have not been able to do anything that he wanted to do.
right.
So, I don't know. I thought it made the point that, there's the real deep love is something that is earned over time. There's a element to it of that. So
Exactly. And look how loving Clark was when he finally learns that she is with child. I mean, that was a long time. She kept that
Yes.
secret until she couldn't
Right.
anymore. Ma
yeah,
knew, but
Mm-hmm.
she couldn't
right.
continue to
But
keep
Ma
that
knew it.
secret.
Hmm.
Yes, Ma did. So it was beautiful. She accepted
Hmm.
Missy, Marty accepted Missy, and then Clark accepted her baby. And it was like, this is going to be my baby as well.
Right.
I'm so glad that, she had a boy. So now we've got this, son and daughter.
Mm-hmm.
Hmm. And then he went out every weekend trying to find a doctor before she had the baby
Mm-hmm.
to
Mm-hmm.
just for her.
I know, how kind was that? He didn't have to do
Yes.
that.
Yeah.
Well, I
But
think
that might
he,
have been a flashback to his wife. Remember, there was no doctor for his first
Right.
wife.
Right.
She
Right.
Yeah.
died in agony.
Right.
Yes.
I think it was so poignant to show that he was truly the epitome of a man of God.
Hmm.
Hmm.
He
Amen.
was.
Even
He
with
was.
all of the tragic things that happened, he really took care of his family, provided for his family, even though at first Clark and Missy didn't have a romantic relationship, but he still took care of her, um, being his wife, and then respected her so much when he said, I won't ask anything of you romantically. I'll sleep out in the barn. I just want you to be here to take care of my child. So I think all, he was really a truly example of a man of God. And he wasn't faking it. That was who he really was.
He just loved that little girl though, and I can't imagine he would have let
Hmm.
Correct.
her go away. I really
Mm-hmm.
can't.
Or when she fell asleep and Missy got out
I know.
and
Oh, my.
she was in a panic.
Yeah.
That was something. And Missy, I guess she went a long ways because she found her dad.
She did. She
She,
probably went miles.
Mm-hmm.
miles, yeah,
Mm.
on
And
there,
he
and
didn't
she
even
was just
see, he didn't say anything.
he wasn't
He
upset
wasn't upset.
at
No.
all. He wasn't
It was
upset at
pretty
all.
early on. She was still grieving pretty hard. That
Yeah.
Right.
was,
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
So there was another element to the story. They didn't spend a lot of time discussing it, but the idea of interracial marriage. I think it was the young Indian girl
Indian, yeah.
falls in love
Mhm.
and marries the white man.
Mhm.
How does the author and the community present that story? Do you think it was handled well, or was it kind of swept underneath the rug, so to speak?
I don't remember that element.
It was very little, just kind of a throw in to me,
Mm-hmm.
because it didn't really go into it a lot. It just, mentioned it, and they talked about the Indians weren't welcome in certain places, and
Mm-hmm.
yeah, but I don't think it went into it a whole lot.
No,
You
it
know,
didn't, but it kind of surprised me though.
it did too. Yeah, yeah.
I mean, because I was thinking, how does this add to the story? I mean, what we get this sense of community, but yet on the other hand, you have this relationship between the Indian woman and the white man,
Right.
and nobody really
She
focuses
wasn't
on it.
accepted. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Mm. Where was it supposed to take place? Do you know exactly where? Where were they? I mean, was it the
In
plains? Were they
in
like,
that community, they were
In
in
their
oh, I
the
know,
community.
but was this like in
community. Yeah.
Kansas or what?
Oh,
Oh, the
You know,
story.
like what? Yeah, where do you have any
Oh,
idea?
Because they were going out west.
They were
yeah.
going
right.
out west from the east, but that's all I got
Correct.
out of
I
it.
know. They didn't give a town name.
And it was a place that snowed quite a bit. So I thought, I don't
Hmm.
know, are we talking about Iowa or Nebraska or something like that? Or are
Could
we
have been
talking
like
about,
around the Midwest.
yeah, I'm just wondering if anybody had an idea
No.
or had read
Mm-mm.
any other books by her that might tell
No.
where they settled.
That was my first reading.
Yeah.
It
Mm.
kind of reminded me of Harriet's book that she had uh, last year when um, the girl that was in the orphanage and she married the guy and then he died on her.
Yeah.
It was kind of,
You know, I don't know if I came in a little late, so I might have not heard it. Did anybody see the movie series that went with this book?
oh,
No, I
wow.
I
I didn't
didn't.
know
I
there was.
actually I saw one of the I didn't see the series, Harriet. I just saw the movie on YouTube because I thought, let me see if it's on there. They did a good job, but they made Missy like about 8 years old versus a
Oh,
baby.
Yes. Yeah.
Mm.
And that's when I made my initial comment. That's the Missy I was thinking of. I forgot in the book she was a baby, but in the
Right.
movie she was a elementary school age. But this series of books, and I think it was on not Lifetime, but maybe Lifetime or Hallmark.
It says
It's
Hallmark,
a
I think, on there that it is.
Yeah, and it's about 7 movies,
oh,
Hmm.
and it chronicles from when, excuse me,
oh.
Clark
I do
and Marty
remember
got
that.
together on through Missy growing up and getting married and having
Mm-hmm.
Oh
children and all of
wow.
that. So it's a very good movie series, and I've seen all the movies.
Okay.
I
Very
remember
good.
the name of that
And
on Hallmark, them advertising it, Love Comes
Mhm.
Softly.
mine
Yeah.
says
Yeah.
it's a
Mm-hmm.
Hallmark movie that was produced by Michael Landon Jr. So
Mm-hmm.
Hmm.
Oh.
that's why I
It
was,
might have been because
mhm.
it's love comes softly. They all start with love something, and it comes softly or whatever. But it's an excellent movie series.
Mm.
So my last question is, because we ask this oftentimes, who was your favorite character?
I'll go first. My favorite character was Clark. I
Okay.
just thought Clark was patient, he was kind, he was a hard worker and on his farm. He treats Marty gently with respect. I took some notes about this. And Kara, she learns to cook clean. And he was just the perfect gentleman. And like I mentioned earlier, no expectations other than take care of my daughter, Missy. And I think if Marty had left and he hadn't stayed she hadn't stayed with him. I think out of love for his daughter, I think he would have been devastated, but I do believe he would have let her go with Marty so that she would have the love of a mother.
Mhm. Okay.
And
I
there
loved
was
him.
a wagon train, I guess, coming through.
Mhm.
Mhm.
And
That's
I
right.
was like, oh gosh, is she gonna go, and she decided to stay. But I was like, is he gonna let the daughter go? How could he let her
Mm.
go?
I like Mark Graham.
Yeah.
She's a wise woman. I like the fact that she was not judgmental. She was so helpful. Because she knew as soon as she looked at Marty that she was pregnant. She didn't spread it in
Hmm.
the community. Clark did not
Mhm.
find out until Marty accidentally leaned down and he noticed it. So
Correct.
she did not spread that young lady's news in the community, and she was so helpful and so kind, and did everything she could to help her, and was open about the ups and downs that she had endured. And by telling her these stories, it helped Marty's resolve that if Ma Graham could do this, if Ma Graham can be so open and kind to me, then I need to do this with this family that took me in. But yeah,
Mhm.
Hmm.
she was my favorite. She was to me, she was like the glue
When you
between Clark and him,
Yeah. When you
Marty.
said that, it reminded me of one of my favorite parts, and that's when Clark was in town and he was buying something from that lady who talked too much.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
she said something about a baby. Well, you got started right away or something like that. And he left and he came back in and said, that's her first husband's child, and I'm going to raise it as my own. But I want you need everyone needs to know this is that it's Clem's child,
Mhm.
and
Hmm.
be okay. And that was a really, I mean, that was such a kind, decent thing to do. And also trying to protect Marty from what's out there. I'm going to put it out there first, and I'm going to make sure that everyone knows this is all okay with me, type.
Hmm.
That was really a nice little part of the story, I thought.
Exactly. He was protecting her reputation.
Mhm.
Mhm. Mhm.
Anyone else want to share their favorite character?
Well, I'm with Ma. I just
Go with mom.
yeah.
Yeah,
I
I
like
like.
Clark. I like Clark a lot. Um,
Yeah. And see, I'm caught between Clark and Marty because Marty took a devastating situation. And even though she had to walk through it, she never stopped pushing forward. Right
Mhm.
after her husband died, you know how they said in the book that she just was so grief stricken. She cried and cried for days and
Mhm.
days. And, you know, I could, all of us in some way have been in a situation where our heart has been broken like that. But at 19, to keep going and keep persevering and keep pressing, she was truly a hero to me.
well, that's all I have. Unless anyone want to share any last comments or thoughts about the novel, Love Comes Softly.
All right. Odella, thank you so very much for recommending this book. I loved it. It was a page turner, and I think based on all of our comments, we thoroughly enjoyed the book. So thank you so very much. So love comes softly.
Yes.